Good afternoon, Pokésports. It's your host, Mike, and I play with two Pokemon on the field. My friends, today, you wouldn't believe it. I yesterday went and recorded this video, and much like Kevin, I lost my audio side of it. And so I thought, you know what? Rather than re-record the thing, which I tend to do sometimes if I ever forget to turn on the audio, I figured, you know what? Let's try and do the whole Kevin setup. Kevin just did this for the past 5 days. It seemed pretty nice, going for the post commentary, standing up. I can do that too somehow, turns out. So I figured, you know what, let's give it a try. So here we are. Today we're going with Zolrain's team, this Tinktaton, Oranguru, Ursaluna, Armarouge, Indeedee, and Urshifu team. Which, again, every time that I have the chance to go and play a Trick Room team, I'm always excited to, right? Because I'm not that great at playing Trick Room teams. I'm not that well versed in it. So getting this kind of experience is actually pretty nice for me. And what we're gonna see here is this Tinktaton actually puts in a Tinktaton of work. It's got the own tempo, it's got weakness policy, so if you hit it with a super effective move, it gets the +2 to special attack and attack. Oranguru has the chance to do that with Bulldoze. I love Bulldoze into weakness policy in Trick Room teams. It slows down the rest of the team as well, so there is that to consider. We've got the Ursaluna there that's just naturally slower than Oranguru and Tinktaton, so you don't actually need to use Bulldoze or anything to slow down your Ursaluna. You can actually just bring out the Ursaluna, hit him with a Hyper Voice, get your +1 to special attack from Throat Spray, and instruct another Hyper Voice. Right? It actually works out pretty well. You got the Indeedee Armarouge in there just to be Indeedee and Armarouge. It's pretty important sometimes. And then you got Urshifu with the big dark pouch. Anyway, this is it the last one? No, it's the second to last for me for Regulation E. So why don't we just get into it right now? So going up against Mio, who's going to be bringing it's a pretty, not a standard team, but it's a team that you see quite often in the meta these days with the neutralizing gas wheezing. You've got Heatran and Fluttermane, which is just a scary special attack combo. And then the Intimidate Boy in Landorus. So here I have like a bunch of different leads that I can go with. I can go with Tinktaton and Oranguru. I can go with Full Moon and Oranguru, the Ursaluna. I can go with Gladius and Karen, the Indeedee and Armarouge. Or I could just sprinkle in a Sensei. You'll notice that the Sensei there has Room Service. And Room Service, if you don't know what that does, when Trick Room is up, it gets a -1 to speed, which actually makes it quite viable against a lot of different, where's my headset? There it is. Against a lot of different Pokemon, right? Because Urshifu just kind of naturally outspeeds a lot of things by a bit, because it's not the fastest Pokemon out there, but it's also not the slowest by far. So anyway, in this match, I'm kind of thinking that just the Tinktaton and Oranguru setup will work. You know, going for a Bulldoze, going for +2 in weakness policy. This Tinktaton also has Swords Dance. So if I'm given the chance to do the dance, I can end up with a +4 pretty easily, which is just insane. If you ever have a Tinktaton at +4 hitting with Gigaton hammers, like nothing's gonna live that. Unless they're resistant to it. Anyway, going to send out Roaring Moon and Fluttermane, which is a pretty decent opening against Tinktaton and Oranguru for me. Because really, the Fluttermane, like, what can it do? It can't go and use a Moonblast or a Dazzling Gleam on my Tinktaton. It could do some pretty okay damage to my Oranguru. It can hit my Oranguru with a Shadow Ball, and it can do, I guess, decent damage to the Tinktaton, but not that much. So, I mean, it's a pretty okay situation. In this, you know, first turn, it's very easy for me to just go for a Trick Room and a Fake Out, because Tinktaton does get Fake Out. So if I just go and hit Trick Room here, I'm like almost guaranteed to get Trick Room off just because of what I was saying before. However, you do have to worry about the fact that the Roaring Moon is a Dark type and does have Dark type moves. My opponent deciding to withdraw the Fluttermane here, bringing in Heatran, the Rank Master. He's a very stinky boy, so he's the Rank Master. He's also going to Terrastallize, so this is a... We've seen plenty of crazy Bramaluna strats. Bramalama, as Kevin would call it. Terra Psychic. This one's Terra Ghost. and it'll make the fake out go right through it. Right through it. Roaring Moon goes for the knockoff, and jeez, it brings Oranguru down to 11 HP. 11. That's not great. It's not great. It goes for the Trick Room, but I mean, hey, Oranguru didn't go down, so that's all that I can really ever hope for. If that had taken out my Oranguru, I would have been eating my words, definitely. But anyway, we did get the Trick Room off, so now we can just kind of go and do the normal thing that this team is supposed to do, except, what do you attack a Heatran with? With the Tinktaton? Do you go for the Gigaton Hammer and do like a tiny bit of damage? Do you go for it on the Roaring Moon and just commit to taking that out? Or do you go for the Play Rough on Roaring Moon and just do effective damage, you know? Regardless, I can go and hit a Bulldoze here just to trigger weakness policy. But again, the problem with doing this, and this may come up later in the game, is that I do reduce the speed of the two Pokemon on the other side of the field as well. So you're not going to want to have slow Pokemon facing your other Pokemon in the next turn. But either way, we've got Roaring Moon speed going down, Heatran speed going down. Heatran does hit the Heat Wave right after this, which brings Tinktaton down to basically nothing and knocks out the Oranguru. But this Gigaton Hammer, though, it's gonna be a tough Gigaton Hammer. There it is. Boom. Takes out the Roaring Moon. At least we've successfully removed the Terra from the field. Okay, and it's important to do that. But we still have the rest of this team to deal with. Now we have a -1 speed Heatran on our hands and an Ursaluna and an Urshifu. This kind of makes it so I have to send out the Ursaluna because if I brought out the Urshifu, that would be stuck at a -1 to -1, which would make the Heatran just naturally faster than my Urshifu. So in this turn here, we've got Tinktaton and Ursaluna. Again, this is what do you do with a team that has everything, right? Like this Tinkaton's going to go down, but it can probably go first. The thing is, though, I was super sure that they were going to protect and Spiky Shield in order to take out my Tinktaton. Because they know that my Tinkaton's going first, they know that it can do some big damage, and they know I'm probably attacking into the Ogerpon. So if I had attacked into the Ogerpon, I would have taken Spiky Shield damage, probably would have gone down to that. So instead, I decided to set up a Swords Dance, which brings me up to a +4, which makes my next hit do a lot more damage. So that felt good. So let's see. I could attack the Ogerpon with Play Rough here. I think that's pretty much my only choice with the moves that I have given to me. But what I can do with Ursaluna is pretty standard. I can just go for a straight up attack both of these Pokemon with the most super effective moves that I can. And barring a Play Rough miss, I could just get a double KO if they don't try and go for a double protect. Which honestly they can do. And if I were in a case like this, I probably would have tried to double protect with one of these and attack with the other, but such is life. Anyway, Heatran goes down, Tinktaton goes for Play Rough, takes out the Ogerpon with that big old +4. Weakness policy plus Swords Dance, I'm telling you, man. It is a good combination. Fluttermane comes back out. Fluttermane with the shiny lime green aesthetic. But yeah, again, just look at this Tinktaton. Still in Trick Room, still with +4. Able to smack him with a big ol' hammer made out of Corviknight. We can try and take out the Fluttermane with the Blood Moon as well, but the battle was just canceled. We're just ending it right there. Not even going to entertain the idea. Anyway, GG's to Milo. Excited to get into game 2. Let's do it. And here we've got a match against Zero, my favorite Mega Man character. Going to bring in the Indeedee male, surprisingly. There's a very common combination that we see here, a very common lead, that being Chien-Pao and Dragonite. Chien-Pao with the Sword of Ruin makes the extreme speed do a lot more. When you Terra normal, you do even more damage there. So the way that I probably would have gone about this in retrospect would probably have been to bring in the Indeedee Armarouge and just forget all about priority. Or you could even just bring in the Indeedee and bring in, I guess, Oranguru and try and set up the trick room. But what I decide to do is not that. I tend to not bring in Indeedee Armarouge when there's anything on the field that can shut down Indeedee Armarouge. And honestly, they have their options too if they bring in Chien-Pao Dragonite, which, by the way, spoiler alert, major spoiler alert, they're about to do. Here's Dragonite and Chien-Pao dropping onto the field. Urshifu and Oranguru is what I ended up choosing to go and deal with this. Again, making it so that extreme speed can go off. Might not be my favorite thing in the world. I was thinking about close combat here on the Dragonite, but then I quickly changed my mind because I was like, what if it doesn't Terra normal? I'm talking like, you know what's going to happen. But anyway, I go back and forth with like, oh, do I go for the close combat on the Chien-Pao, the Dragonite? Like, which one am I going to be hitting here? Is Urshifu actually going to survive this turn? Because there's the chance that it doesn't. What's he going to do? This was a whole 24 hours ago for me, so there we go. So it looks like I attacked the Dragonite. And with Oranguru, I decided to protect because, you know, it's a Chien-Pao on the other side of the field. I'm fearing a dark type move going into the Oranguru. And if you're going to attack my Urshifu, then attack my Urshifu. I'll do some return damage as long as your extreme speed doesn't OHKO me. And next turn I'll have a full HP Oranguru on the field that you have to deal with. Anyway, Oranguru hits the protect. We'll see if that's actually relevant. Dragonite does use extreme speed, not on the Oranguru, which I kind of was hoping that they would do, fearing that I was going to use like a trick room or something like that. Throat Chop hits the protect, and Urshifu can now go for the Wicked Blow on the Dragonite, doing a critical hit, not doing all that much damage, so it kind of makes me think that this is like almost certainly a multi-scale Dragonite, but such is. Oranguru here. Now I'm kind of feeling gutsy. All right, I'm feeling like it might be time to try out a trick room, and by doing that, I would need to terrastalize, or I felt like I would need to terrastalize anyway. We'll see if the math actually works out, because if the Chien-Pao goes for another Throat Chop, then, you know, that will be hitting super effectively on my Oranguru. At least here, this is going to be hitting into a Dark type. So Urshifu is going to detect. I'm just trading off my protects now. Extreme speed is not going to go off because of the detect, which is great. We saw how much damage that did to Urshifu the first time. It would certainly KO that this time. Here comes the Trick Room. However, when you're in the face of a Dragonite with +2 priority on its moves, there's not a ton you can do about that. Not with Urshifu anyway. So we've got close combat that I guess I could use, but there's truly no point. I'm just gonna talk smack and get hacked. Oh, that's okay. Talk smack, get hacked. So like, what is the situation here? How do you get out of this? And I think current day past Michael, yeah, past Mike is having the same kind of dilemma. Oranguru is going to protect here. Urshifu can try and attack, but the extreme speed is just gonna finish it off. So down goes Urshifu, unfortunately. But at least this does mean that next turn I'll be able to use Oranguru in a speedy way. Chien-Pao is going to go for Ice Spinner. That's not going to hit because of the protect. And whatever Pokemon I decide to bring beside it, that actually being the Ursaluna, that'll be the fastest thing on the field, right? So at this point, I can go for the Hyper Voice. I can go for the Instruct. As long as the Dragonite doesn't, you know, extreme speed my Oranguru and take that out, then I'll be okay, I think. But Ursaluna takes that damage, takes the extreme speed like a champ, but forgot about Sucker Punch. There's a Sucker Punch. Does some pretty decent damage there. But you know what does even more decent damage? Is a Hyper Voice, Throat Spray, and a Hyper Voice, because Oranguru is going to instruct the Ursaluna for it to go and use Hyper Voice again on the two Pokemon on the other side of the field. Dragonite and Chien-Pao are both going to go down. Finally, after, you know, 1.5 Pokemon, 1.5 HP's worth of Pokemon, full HP's, 150% of an HP bar, I have finally taken down Chien-Pao and Dragonite. So, I mean, it's a pretty decent trade. You know, 150% of an HP bar, 200% of an HP bar. Now I just have 200% left. Grimmsnarl is going to come out with Urshifu, the rank master. Stinky, stinky boy. I restart the episode. Ursaluna is going to go for the Ursaluna is going to go for the thing that Ursaluna goes for, and then Instruct. I mean, if the Urshifu doesn't have an Aqua Jet or a Sucker Punch, I think this is yeah, there it is. It's a Water Urshifu. It does go for the Aqua Jet. It does take out my Ursaluna, and so that means I am about to look like a silly person because I'm just going to go for an Instruct on nothing. But Spirit Break is the unfortunate part here, where that does take a lot more of my HP than it normally would. It does bring down my attack as well. Oh no. But yeah, we've got Tinktaton out here. And I can still go for, you know, bulldoze shenanigans, right? Because I still have at least one turn of Trick Room. And with one turn of Trick Room, I should be able to get everything that I need done. The Urshifu does have the chance to go for an Aqua Jet, which I don't want it to do to my Oranguru, but it certainly can. But here, am I forgetting about weakness policy? Oh no. No, good. I think I almost did. I almost instructed, and then I was like, oh, no, can't do that. Can't do that. Grimmsnarl is going to go for the Reflect, which isn't going to matter as much because I am going to hit the guy with a big hammer. So anyway, my speed goes down here. I get my weakness policy boost. Now it's really just a matter of, you know, can I bonk these guys hard enough to go and, you know, win the game. Play rough. Nope. Play rough is not a hard enough bonk for me to go and take that out. But you know what is Surging Strikes? No, that takes me down to 16. Takes me low enough that an Aqua Jet can go and finish me off. Plus Twisted Dimensions have returned to normal. So unfortunately, it looks like with less than 25% left of my total HP, that I won't be able to finish this out. Bulldoze can take out the Urshifu from here, but if it's Oranguru versus Grimmsnarl, I would always bet on Grimmsnarl. Nah, I'd win. All right, so Tinktaton goes down. Tinkaton's out of here, and it's just Oranguru who seems to go before Grimmsnarl here, which is fascinating. Yeah, and it's just Oranguru versus Grimmsnarl. So a -1 Grimmsnarl is actually faster than an Oranguru. I didn't realize that. But anyway, Spirit Break is going to take out my monkey. We couldn't break through that Grimmsnarl. That's just the unfortunate part. Maybe if I had, well, certainly if I had taken out the Urshifu, then I would have been fine. But unfortunately, that Urshifu did hang on at 1 HP, thanks to the Secret Sash. It wasn't even sashed. But that was the end of the game. Okay. Anyway, let's move on to game 3. And move on we shall to Perrin, who is bringing the most interesting team that I have seen this week. We've got a Tinktaton. Oh, okay. We've got an Oranguru, that's me. We've got an Armarouge. Oh, okay. We've got an Appleton. What? We've got a Heracross, a Mousehold, which, you know, honestly, like seeing a Mousehold anywhere else does not actually seem all that strange, but seeing it among this team is completely different, right? And then we've got the Scizor as well, which same kind of thing. When you see it in this team, it's like, oh wow, that's actually a pretty interesting choice there. You got 2 bug types, 2 steel types. It's interesting why they made that decision. But regardless, lots of things that they can do with that. Heracross does have Guts, I believe, if you want to play it like that. You can bring in the Mousehold with Friend Guard for any one of those guys. The Appleton, you might want to do some setup with the Mousehold. And then just Scizor is a good and strong Pokemon, you know, after you set it up with Swords Dance. So there are lots of choices that they can make. However, seeing the Scizor, the first thing that I'm thinking is, okay, that's going to be a Bullet Punch. So I'm going to need to protect myself against some kind of priority. So going to need to bring in the Indeedee. And then if you bring in the Indeedee, you might as well bring in the Armarouge. So they're going to start by setting up Heracross the 100 times victorious and Tinktaton the rank master, Stinky. I gotta stop. Michael, you gotta stop. You break yourself when you do that. Indeedee uses Psychic Surge. And at this point, like, I can go for an Expanding Force if I really wanted to from Armarouge, and why not, right? There's no reason for me to not go for an Expanding Force here. And if that's the case, either I can Trick Room and deal with the wonky speed tiers that are here, or I can just go for a Helping Hand and hope to do as much damage as humanly possible. I don't feel the need to Terrastalize here with my Armarouge because, you know, tearing into grass in the face of a bug is probably not the best idea. Plus, being fire, that like almost completely shuts down the Tinktaton anyway. So the Heracross, though, has different plans. Decides to Terra Dark in the face of my Indeedee Armarouge, which does work because my Expanding Force isn't going to hit. Now, here's something that kind of messed with me a bit. Heracross is going to use Knockoff. It's going to take off my Life Orb, and that's what I forgot. Okay, Tinkaton's going to go ahead and use Stealth Rock, which, I mean, I didn't even know that Tinkaton got, but that makes sense. You know, just throws some rocks, goes with his big old hammer, takes it down. Now here, Expanding Force doesn't do a ton of damage. Heracross does get burned from its Flame Orb, and now it's going to get its Guts boost. But for me, I was sitting there going like, why did Armarouge not go down? Is it because I attacked into a Dark type? But no, it was because I got my Life Orb knocked off that very turn. So, just a little Mike forget time. All right, so Armarouge here, not very long for this world. 4 HP left on that Armarouge. Gotta protect that somehow. And thankfully, I do have Protect with which to do that. So I'm gonna go ahead and use that. And then really at this point, I'm not sure what Indeedee's purpose serves. I could hit a Trick Room and just, you know, make sure that my slower Pokemon are faster than the Pokemon on the other side. Or I could just start going for Dazzling Gleams and really hurt that Heracross now that it's a Dark type. I do decide to go for the Trick Room. So now my people in the back, not so much the Armarouge as you saw, will be faster than those guys on the field. So at this point, Indeedee doesn't really serve too much of a purpose. I could Terrastalize, go for Dazzling Gleam, put the big heart on my head, hurt the Heracross a lot. Which is looking like what I decide to do, but we'll see here. Armor Cannon can attack the Tinktaton. If I get this Armor Cannon off, man, this is going to be huge, and I do because I go first. Wow, I'm actually faster, never mind, in Trick Room. So because I am a little bit faster, I do get to use that Armor Cannon on Tinktaton, take the Tinktaton down, and do a little bit of damage to this Heracross to boot. So Indeedee goes for the Dazzling Gleam. We'll see how much that does. Nearly half. It's a pretty decent attack. A Terra probably would not have been the right choice. Thankfully, I didn't do it, but had I Terrastalized, that Heracross would be down to like, what, 25% at this point? It's basically the same as what I ended up doing. Anyway, now I'm in a pretty decent position, honestly, because we've got the Psychic Terrain up, nobody can hit me with priority, and I'm about to bring out the slowest thing that I could bring out right now, that being Ursaluna. All just kind of depends on what they bring out, right? Because I know I can take out this Heracross with a Hyper Voice. I know I can, you know, do a bunch of damage to anything because of Mind's Eye. Let me hit the Ghosties, but all depends on what this Pokemon is, and it's Scizor. And honestly, it's a pretty good Pokemon to bring out right now because I don't have my Origuru on the other side. It is an Indeedee, so I can't go and instruct Ursaluna to do anything. I could go for an Earth Power on the Scizor, but then I wouldn't get the Throat Spray +1 from using Hyper Voice. I believe that I can take out the Heracross with a Hyper Voice as well, so I figure, you know what? This might be the best time as any to go and use a Hyper Voice, get my +1, tank whatever hit Scizor has for me, take out their Terra-type Mon. And I do that with a Helping Hand. A Helping Hand on the Indeedee, I believe, is going to make this Hyper Voice a little bit better. Unfortunately, the Heracross does protect, so it keeps itself around another turn. You try and you try and you try to use that Hyper Voice to take something out, but no, you only get to touch the Steel type. But look at how much damage that did, right? It did just under half. So what I'm thinking now is, oh, okay, that's actually perfect, because the Scizor goes and uses a Swords Dance, brings up its attack. It didn't actually do any damage to anybody. So what I can do now is just a nice and easy same thing that I did before. Helping Hand on the Ursaluna, Hyper Voice again. The only difference is now I'm not going to do 45% to the Scizor. This time I'm going to do 45% plus 50% and make that, you know, a grand total of over 100 because of the +1 to special attack that my Ursaluna got from the Throat Spray. So at this point, this should be kind of all the damage that I need. My opponent's probably thinking the same thing, sitting there for a little while being like, how do I preserve what I've got? And the answer to that is to send out Appleton. And Appleton is going to take a big ol' Hyper Voice to the face. I don't like how those claps are out of sync. Indeedee is going to go and use Helping Hand. Ursaluna goes for the Hyper Voice at a +1 plus a Helping Hand, so Scizor cannot take the rest of that. Appleton also goes down to about 10% HP, so at this point, this game is feeling pretty good. It's feeling pretty good. Scizor just went down after doing absolutely nothing. The weirdness is going to disappear, but at this point, I think that's fine. I don't know if the Heracross has any kind of priority moves to speak of, but I certainly don't think it has enough to take out my Ursaluna. I go and check that I still have Trick Room turns up. I do. So my Ursaluna is still probably the fastest thing on the field, but we'll still go for a Dazzling Gleam just in case. And a Hyper Voice just to close this out. Let's see if we can do that. All right, well, no, not this time. Heracross is going to protect. With Heracross protecting, that does mean that the Heracross is going to survive another day. We'll see what that means for next turn. But really, at this point, like, what can the Heracross do by itself that it couldn't do when Appleton was there? I guess you're baiting out the Trick Room turns, right? But, you know, you're going to need a pretty powerful spread move to go and take care of my Indeedee and my Ursaluna next turn. There's some construction going on outside my house, and that's great. Anyway, the Twisted Dimensions are going to return, which is totally fine. I could just go for a Dazzling Gleam on the Heracross and go for a big old Blood Moon, I guess. Yeah, let's just close this out. Use a Blood Moon, or maybe we'll run. Oh, I see. Past Michael decided to BM a little bit. He used the Follow Me from Indeedee, so to make the Heracross target my Indeedee. Lunge is going to take out Indeedee. I'm so sorry, Indeedee. Goodbye. And then we'll hit the bug with a Blood Moon. Here we go. Big roar. And boom. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. So Heracross goes down, and that is going to be the end of the game versus this guy. Versus Perrin, right? Perrin. Yeah. Perrin. That was fun. These games were a lot of fun. I really enjoyed playing these games because using a Tinktaton, I don't really get to do that too often. Oranguru, I again rarely get to use because of all these, you know, the fact that I just don't feel like I'm great at Trick Room. It's when you need to go, like you need to go and set up when you bring out a Trick Room. When you bring a Pokemon with like Swords Dance or Dragon Dance, like you can set up if the situation calls for it, or you can just go and attack. Versus a Trick Room where like you have to go and use Trick Room if you want to, you know, outspeed all of these other Pokemon. I guess the same kind of thing could be said with Tailwind, but because Tailwind has a +1 priority on a lot of the Pokemon that use it with Prankster, it's a little easier to get to use than a Trick Room, which has a -6, -7 priority that is always used at the end of the turn. So I don't know. It's a tough call to make sometimes for me, but I love getting the experience with it. We ended up going 2-1 in this video, but you know, it felt good. Felt good. It was a good feeling of a 2-1. Anyway, I really do want to give a special shout out to this Urshifu. I think Urshifu with room service is a lot of fun. It didn't really get too much chance to shine in this video, but again, I just love the concept of flipping the script with your Urshifu. People expect that their Pokemon are going to outspeed the Urshifu, and then Trick Room happens, and then room service happens, and they're like, oh, well, never mind. Okay, Urshifu is going to outspeed me. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. This has been Future Mike here, I guess, looking at the past. I'm telling you, like, please believe me when I say this was unintentional. I would have just re-recorded had Kevin not done his future shenanigans. I was like, oh, you know what? Sure, why don't I give this a try? Anyway, make sure you do like the video if you enjoyed. It really helps out the channel, puts us on the algorithm, gets other people watching as well. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. I hope you're ready for Regulation F. That'll be a lot of fun when the Indigo Disc comes out. I've been Mike and I play with 2 Pokemon on the field, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.